Well, hi everybody. This is Spath on Positive Poker Insider. Today we got a special guest. We're privileged to have with us Chris Fox Wallace. And Chris, are you there?
I'm here, Al. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Chris. And I understand you're back in Minnesota. You said Bloomington, right?
Yeah, just south of Minneapolis. I just been home a couple days.
Couple of days. You've been trying. I think I noticed you were hiking somewhere out west. Where was that at? Was that Red Rocks?
Yeah, I was in Vegas. I spend about half my time in Vegas these days, and so yeah, did some hiking in Vegas and around a couple of parks in Vegas, and then Red Rocks and Valley of Fire. My girlfriend lives in Vegas, and she took me hiking. She knows a lot of the parks there really well, so that was fun.
Does it help clear out the head a little bit too from poker?
Absolutely, and I think it's huge to get away from the city a little bit. I mean, Vegas isn't that big a city, but if you never leave the Strip, you feel like you see nothing but city, and it's just constant hustle, and being away from that for a little bit and getting outside is nice. And the canyons are beautiful. I mean, I think a lot of people that go to Vegas don't realize how much there is just outside the city.
I think you're absolutely right, and a lot of people don't get up to was it the mountain?
Oh yeah, Mount Charleston. Yeah.
Mount Charleston too, as well. And I understand today you're hosting us over on your channel, and your channel is Fox Plays Poker. For those of you that haven't followed Chris over there, please do. It's Fox Plays Poker on Twitch TV, and
Yep.
we're glad to have your folks. If any are around on a Sunday, it's hard sometimes to get people around. They're out busy, or they're watching the races on TV, or they're playing poker all over the country and everything. But let's dive on in, if you don't mind, Chris, and let's talk about that shirt first off. Blue Shark Optics. Tell me a little bit about that.
And it's the bluest shirt I have. I've known Carrie from Blue Shark Optics for years. I really like the product. I've been kind of supporting the product for a long time, and just last year, right before the World Series, my pro model came out, so I have a model with my name on it.
Cool.
And I'm a big fan of both the poker shades that I've been using forever, and now the outdoor driving shades as well. I've been, the pictures that you saw of me hiking in Red Rocks, I probably was wearing my Blue Shark model with the driving glasses on. They're fantastic.
So where can people pick those up, and is there a promo code or anything that they should use, or is it something off of your website, or go right to Blue Shark?
They're at bluesharkoptics.com.
Okay.
Or you can follow them on Twitter at Blue Shark Optics, and CW16 is a 10% off code that I give everybody.
CW16. Okay, everybody, that's Chris Wallace there. 16. Okay, tell us the 16. There's got to be something behind that 16.
It's 2016.
Okay, all right.
That's just what I just took whatever code Carrie gave me, just so I had something to give people to get them a discount.
One question one of my followers asked me this week, because they noticed that I was going to do a conversation with you. Can prescriptions be put into those?
Yes, they can do bifocals, trifocals, any kind of prescription. You send them your prescription and they have them done, or you can send them your prescription and your frames, or you can even send them the whole glasses with the lenses and everything, and they can put the coating on them.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, they do all of it. I know a bunch of people who have the prescription version.
They're happy with it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about where it all began. When did you get into poker?
It was interesting. While I was in Vegas, I had a blast from the past. A couple friends were in town that I haven't seen in almost 20 years, and went and had a drink with them at the Bellagio, and we were talking about playing for nickels, and in a kitchen, and then lived in a co-op in a giant dorm style house in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I used to play for we would throw a game and buy some cases of beer, and it was free beer at the game in our room, and everybody would get drunk, and we'd make enough money to pay the rent for the month. We did that a few times. But honestly, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just not as bad as the other players were, and I wasn't as drunk as they were. But I didn't get serious about it. I never played a hand of Texas Hold'em until I was a guitar builder, and I developed an allergy to the exotic hardwoods that I was working with. So my career just kind of ended immediately, and had to figure out what to do. So, and one of the things that I thought of as an option was playing poker. I had a friend, Adam Stempel, who's my co-author in my book, who was a serious semi-pro player, made money for many years before he and I ever met, and I asked him about it, and I said, "Do you think, can someone make a living doing that?" And he said, I think you could, yeah. So he loaned me a couple of poker books, and that changed the world for me. I read those books and realized, wow, there's a lot to this game that I just didn't even consider. Started studying. 6 months later, I quit my job because I was making too much money to go to work.
And this was about how old were you at that time, you think?
About 30, 29.
29, 30. So it was a real career change at that point. Yeah, I mean, switching and taking a chance on poker, that was a little bit nerve-wracking, I imagine.
I honestly, if it had been a big career change for me, I might not have done it. It was, I really didn't have much to lose since my guitar building career was over, and I was driving a cab trying to figure out what I should do, if I should go back to school and I thought about writing and poker, and the poker players I knew had money and the writers were broke, so I went with poker, although I still do quite a bit of writing.
I like that. I like that. And you mentioned the book, the Stempel co-authored. That's the No Limit, the Fundamentals of No Limit Hold'em.
Yeah, I wrote that, but I didn't really write a book. I tried to write a book, and I ended up with 80,000 words in a big pile. It was kind of like having a garage full of car parts instead of having a car. So I struggled with it, and then I just got so tired of struggling with it that I hated it and didn't look at it for a while. And then I sent it to Adam because he's a very accomplished writer and a student of the craft of writing. I write, but Adam is an actual writer. And I sent it to him and said, "What do you think about this mess?" And he said, "This is fantastic. Let me help you organize it and make it a book." So it's really my thoughts on No Limit and how I learned to play No Limit, and how I figured the game out kind of on my own.
Right.
I spent a lot of time with spreadsheets and calculators and doing work to figure out how the game worked. And so it's all my thoughts on that, but it's viewed through the eyes of a serious player and a serious writer who was able to distill it into something that was useful to people instead of the giant pile of words that I sent him.
Well, do you have another pile in your garage that you're waiting to do another book right now?
I have a couple, and I don't know what I'll ever do with them. I started a horse book actually in 2008. I was actually looking through some old writing stuff the other day, and so I was surprised at how long ago that was.
Was that after you won the World Series of Poker bracelet?
No, I won the bracelet in 2014.
In 14, yeah.
Yeah, but I was playing online and then playing at the Bellagio and played a lot of horse back then. I really liked the game, and there wasn't a good book on horse in general. There were good books on individual games, and so I started working on that. But I think every serious horse player in the country might buy one, but that's only 60 copies, and it's just not really worth it.
That's true. A lot of people aren't playing that game. In fact, what did I read? There was only 200 players in that horse tournament, or were there more?
There were 200, but that actually wasn't a particularly small field for that event. For any of the 10K, what they call World Championship events that are alternate games, they are pretty small. That was a lot bigger field than the Raz, a little bigger field than the Stud 8, and I think even bigger than the 08 event. 200 players for the 10K horse is not a surprisingly small field. Actually, it's not bad, and I think they were up to 208 or something this year, or in 2015 when Andrew Barber won.
Right. Well, many of the pros that I've talked to over the past several weeks, they've all indicated the same thing. If you really want to get a bracelet, study the other disciplines other than Hold'em, because the fields will be a lot smaller. Do you agree with that?
Some of the fields are a little smaller, but
Good
I don't know
players.
that makes it easier unless you get good. If you're, if you want a bracelet, the first thing to do is get really good at those games.
Right.
Part of the reason those games are so profitable is because a lot of no limit players just play those events because they're small fields and they think, hey, it's a lottery for a bracelet. In reality, those structures are so good at the World Series for the limit events, especially the 10K limit events.
Yes.
If you're not good, you just don't have a chance. And 150 of those 200 players in that event were the 150 best players in the world in those games. And it takes us 3 days. It took us 3 full days,
3 days, yeah.
3 long days to get rid of 200 people and be done with the event. In a no limit event, it would just never take anywhere close to that long. So the structures are really great, and the expert advantage, especially in the stud games, is really high. So if you're not good at those games, it's not going to help you to play them. Not that I want you to not play them. In fact, I take all that back. Just if you're bad at poker, play those events.
It is out of all the different disciplines that I was talking to Tom McAvoy last week, and he was mentioning playing in a league where there was a horse league that he was in somebody's house in Vegas. But is there one discipline out of those that you enjoy the most? In other words, when it turns over to be Omaha, or when it turns out to be what is the one that you like?
The one that I like is Stud 8.
Stud 8.
I don't know if it's the most profitable for me, but it's the one that's the most interesting to me. Definitely the most interesting game. There's more to think about. There's more to do. The most profitable for me has been Raz. Stud 8 has been pretty good to me in tournaments, and Limit Hold'em is a great portion of the horse tournament rotation for me. But Raz is the game that's made me the most money. I played a lot of Raz online and made a lot of money doing it. People they were always 2, 3, and 4-handed, very short-handed games online because there weren't a lot of people who wanted to play high limit Raz. But when they did, most of them couldn't play. So that was the most profitable game for me.
So other than going out to Vegas to see your girlfriend and playing poker out there, do you get the chance to play that much in the Minnesota, St. Paul, Bloomington area? Is there Canterbury or something like that nearby?
Yeah, part of the reason I moved to Bloomington was that Canterbury is a 7-minute drive from here. And Canterbury's where I play generally when I'm here. When I lived in St. Paul, I played at Running Aces a lot and liked Running Aces a lot. But now that I'm at Canterbury, there's more money to be made there. And that's where I'm playing when I'm home. Although I'm playing online as much as I am live when I'm home because the money's just not as good in Minnesota as it is in Vegas.
And one question that's always interested me about your name, the Fox part. Somebody told me it was because you worked over at Fox TV. And what's the story on the Fox?
No, I've never had any association with Fox TV.
See, I don't know where it came from. I need to know. I
do get things on Twitter. In fact, I got 2 of them today. Let me check. I might have another one. There's a notification. There's another one. Yeah, I just got another one from somebody who thinks that I'm the Chris Wallace who's the Fox News reporter. Get those on Twitter multiple times after every debate. Apparently Republicans are really bad at Googling Twitter accounts.
Yeah.
The name comes from a screen name online, which kind of came from a martial arts teacher 25 years ago, which was kind of a joke at the time. And, just I needed an online screen name. And so I picked Fox. And I signed up at Pocket Fives when they first started with the name Fox. And I started writing for them and writing a blog for them. And that was kind of how I became known to the poker world. I wasn't a big player at all. I was playing $30 sit and goes for a living back in those days, 13 years ago or whenever it was. Well, when I started writing for Pocket Fives, I guess that was in 2005, 11 years ago. And my blog became fairly popular on Pocket Fives. I had a lot of readers, and so people knew me as Fox. That became, a person who was known. Otherwise, nobody would have ever heard of me. So Fox is how the poker world knows me, more because of Pocket Fives and online poker screen names than anything else.
Well, it also says in your bio that along with being a coach, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, it says you're also a consultant. What kind of consultant work are you doing these days?
not doing any right now, but I have in the past worked with online poker rooms. I've worked with a few live poker rooms. Um, I think that the online poker companies are really missing out on a lot. They're really doing a lot of things wrong, and I've tried to help some of them with that. I don't know which I can't comment on which ones I've worked with because I don't remember which ones care if I comment on
Sure,
working with them or what I did with
we
them or
understand.
not. But I have worked with some online poker rooms and helped them look at ways that they can help their kind of biggest fish not lose so much money so quickly. Because if you got a guy who's losing it fast enough, he will lose all of his money before he pays hardly any rake. He will not have as much fun, and the sharks that are eating him will get fat, and then when he's gone, they'll leave, and that money all leaves the site, and the one guy's broke and the other guy's gone, and now you've got an empty table and not one unhappy player, and that's not really what you want. So I've worked with them some on how to help those players not lose money so quickly and help them
I
survive or have more fun.
I had the same idea. I worked with one particular online entity, and what I was telling them was that these fish, they're the heart and soul of your site, and you have to retain them. Retention is the biggest thing online. You need to retain people. So if you reach out to them, they're going to make you all the money in the world. So why not hire someone like you, like me, someone like that does coaching, and put them in touch with this person? Say, hey, look, we as a site we'll pay for a training or two with this individual. You'll enjoy your experience. Not only will they be retained, they'll have loyalty towards that site because that site stepped out. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's a comp that's worth having to somebody that's like you're describing, that fish that goes through water, goes through money like water. And these people just don't see it, and I don't know why they don't see the big picture. And they're spending all this money on marketing to get people in there. But if they would just retain some of the people that they have in there, they don't have to retain them all. But they know who the rakers are. They have all the stats on the backside. Why not target them?
They're really, yeah, I agree, and I've done exactly the same thing as you described for one of the online poker rooms. I did some coaching with some of their biggest losers. Um, the thing is, you never meet a good drug dealer. You never meet a good online poker room owner. You never meet a good arms dealer. You probably never meet someone who's really great at running a brothel, because some businesses are very easy and you don't have to get good at them.
Right.
I think when you look at the expenses involved in running an online poker room, if you're big enough to be successful, you're making money as fast as you can count it. And if you're not big enough to be successful, you're not making any money at all and don't have any money to spend on someone helping you with that kind of coaching. Um, the market just isn't competitive right now. There is Poker Stars and everybody else. There's the 700-pound gorilla, and then the others. In the U.S. market, there are the unregulated sites that can work with people from any state who have a massive advantage over the regulated sites.
Sure.
And so the unregulated sites aren't going to aren't going to learn to be good because they aren't going to have to be. And they also, I'm not sure they want to get too big. I think the unregulated sites know that if they get too big, they're going to get shut down by the Department of Justice and go to prison. So, well, not that anybody goes to prison for those. They'll get shut down by the Department of Justice and have to bribe their way out of going to prison. But the regulated sites don't have enough money to spend on that kind of stuff because they're so heavily regulated and restricted to one state. They don't have any money to spend on stuff like that. So there's kind of no middle ground where there's a site that's good and has the money and wants to expand that would spend money on that. Where there used to be, it was kind of mid-range sites that always brought me in for things like that.
Yeah, it's a tough battle. I think the word this week was that Full Tilt was going to fall onto Poker Stars and make them even bigger giant, a bigger grand ape in the room. That's just going to be some kind of a squash to a lot of these little sites that are trying to survive, and some of these states that are counting. I noticed that Delaware just switched over, I think, under under Vegas with their home state online system. So
So Delaware combined player pools with Vegas?
I thought they were giving. Yeah, I thought that Delaware was doing that. I read something here recently that
That would
they
be a
weren't getting
smart
the
thing for them.
traffic. Yeah,
That
they
would be
weren't
really
getting the
smart.
traffic. I also see that you wrote for Bluff. You wrote for several magazines, Poker Pro magazine. You online with of course with 2+2, Card Player featured, Pocket Fives. Um, so you've had your chance to submit articles. And what seems, I know I read that your bankroll management was the most popular and most clicked on article you ever wrote. But what do you feel most people out there want to know about poker these days, now that the game has really changed from the way it was 10 years ago?
I think it depends on the piece of the audience. There's a big chunk of the audience that just wants to know the secret, and you and I know there isn't a secret.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big chunk of people who play poker who think they're already very good and they just need to know what the secret is, or they have one or two questions they want answered and they think they'll have it all figured out. Most people underestimate how complex poker is. It's a game you need to study for years and years. It's very complicated. And then there are the people who are serious students, and those people seem to want to learn about more in-depth, more complicated stuff. And I don't know how many of those people there are. I just know that those are the people I get feedback from.
Mm-hmm.
So, like in the last year, the most response I've gotten about anything I've written was about a concept I called ranging, which is manipulating your opponent's ranges so that you keep certain hands in and get other hands out, so that you can end up with the winning hand in a big pot. And it's a complicated thing to write about. It's tough to explain in writing, but I did my best, and I got a lot of positive feedback from serious players about what a great article it was, and how it was a great concept, and examples of how they used that same concept. It seems like a thing that people are doing, but is hard to discuss. And so I think there are the people who want the secret, and there are the people who know there isn't a secret.
I understand that. I received a very generous call today. A gentleman called me yesterday, didn't get through to me. I called him back and I didn't get through to him. And the phone rang today and it was a Delaware number, and I picked it up and he says, "Hey, this is Tom G." I said, "Who?" He said, "Yeah, you worked with me back about 2 years ago, Delaware Park and online and everything else." He says, "I'm in Vegas and I'm just calling to tell you, because I don't know how many calls you get. I just want to thank you. I know the journey was there. I know I had to do my work. I did, but this is all paid off for me. I've been traveling around the world. I played in Macau. I just, I'm still at a low level. I'm moving up to 2.5, but I just crushed it in Vegas. I was 1,500 this night, 15 on 1-2 tables." He said, "I just wanted to take the time to thank you. I know." Yeah, some of us have a thick skin when we come and we say we can't learn everything, but I wanted you to know we can learn from guys like you out there. That made me feel really good to get that kind of feedback, and I know you get feedback all the time, because I watch some of your streams and on Twitch, and it's Fox Plays Poker for anybody that's out there, and I see some of the comments that are in your chat that you have a lot of followers that learn a lot from you, and they're thanking you all the time. So I really appreciate you taking the time with us to answer these questions today, because I know how important it is to those that are starting out, those that are in the middle that want to move up, and those that maybe have moved up and that are struggling. Because
Doesn't it feel great when you get a call like that? That's the most rewarding thing, when you know that you've done a good job at what you're doing and it's made somebody happy. That's about all the reward you can get in any job.
Yeah, that was special to me, and I really appreciate it. I said, "Hey, when you get back, you want to write that up and put it up on Facebook? That'll be pretty cool." But he was laughing as he was getting on a plane, and I just sent him a book to read when he was on the plane, because he wants to get back into it. You had written something about stop loss. And then I read something else online where you kind of got away from that again, and you put some maybe some quotation marks around it, parentheses box around it. starting out, you still believe that somebody should have a stop loss philosophy when they're playing?
Um, when I started out, I really thought there was no need for anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you still think the game is good and you're still playing well, there's no reason to stop.
Right.
And when most people use a stop loss or a stop win, it's because they think they can game the system. They think they can find ways to cash out when they're at the top of the wave and cash out before they hit the bottom of the wave when they're losing, and those things just aren't real. But I have learned that a lot of people have tilt problems, that all of us have nights when we're just not playing as well, whether you're tired, you're hungry, whatever. Speaking of tired, and
There's a tell, everybody. Did you see that?
there you
one?
go.
Tough night last night.
Yeah, I was. When you are getting crushed in a game, there might be a reason for it that you can't see. And so I think a stop loss is not unreasonable for a lot of players. I've also, when I've worked with students on tilt problems, it's really about recognizing those things from an outside perspective and seeing that, okay, this is some things have happened that would often put me on tilt. I don't know if I'm on tilt right now, but these things have happened, and so I've made rules. Say if you're down 3 buy-ins in a no limit game, maybe it's time to go home for a while. At least take a walk, do something, because that's a lot. You're down quite a bit, and it's an indication that you could be playing badly, or it's an indication that just because you're running so bad, now you could be on tilt. I mean, if you're down 3 buy-ins, maybe you need a break. But it depends on the person. There's no set of rules for, if you just stop when you're down 2 buy-ins and cash out when you're up 3 buy-ins, you'll make money. That's not real. But for an individual to recognize that there might be a problem if I'm down this much, whether it's, you could be being cheated, or you could be, there could be all kinds of things that are going wrong that have caused you to be down 3 buy-ins. And if you're a winning player and being down that far is really atypical for you, maybe it's time to take the night off instead of continuing to smash your head against something that might not be beatable for you that night.
I agree 100% with that. Total agreement on something that it gets in the way of winning, or gets in the way of you realizing you've lost too much. Whether if the game is juicy and everything's fine, you don't have any place to be, and you've eaten and you feel refreshed. There's no reason to really leave that game. It's paying you off. But if you got anything hanging over your head, or you've been just slamming it, and you're just saying, well, it's about to change, and you don't realize that it may not be. It just may not be the setup on that table for you. It may be those players are better. It may be they have your number. It may have may have the wrong read on some people. There's so many different things that could be factors there. But so I agree with you that sometimes it's time to just say, I can save this money for another trip to the table another time.
Yeah, and it's a tough call to make. I usually tell my students in that conversation about my rule with drinking and driving. I've never driven drunk. It's one of the most dangerous things that humans do. Mm-hmm. I've driven after I have 1 beer. That's my rule. I generally don't drive if I've had, if I know I'm going to drink anything at all. But I made a 1 beer rule. If I have 1 beer, that's it. If I have a second beer, I can't drive. And I'm a big guy, I weigh 275 pounds. I can have 2 beers and be legal.
Sure.
If it takes me an hour and a half, I can probably have 3 beers and be legal. But it gets to be a really slippery slope, and the alcohol impairs your ability to tell whether you're impaired or not.
Right.
And so if you make a rule, then you're not ever making a mistake. If you don't have a rule, you could make a mistake. And even if it's, I'm a very good driver and I could be at 0.08 and probably be safer than most people who are sober, but if I get pulled over, it still costs me an average. And I think the average DUI in Minnesota, they say the total cost is around $20,000. Wow. It's just not. It's not an acceptable risk, and totally. and so I make that rule, which means that some nights I could have another beer, have a little more fun, and still drive home safely and legally. but I'm not because I don't want to take that risk. And that would be kind of the same thing with making those rules for stop losses and tilt prevention. And they're not all even stop losses. Some of it is, if it's an indication that you're tilted if you insult another player at the table. I have a student who is a very good player but tilts sometimes, and we tried to figure out what's an indicator that he's tilted because he doesn't know, and I understand that I don't know when I'm tilted either. And one of the things we found is that he will throw his cards aggressively into the muck, and he will insult other players in a very mild way. But he'll say, "Nice catch," instead of "nice hand," and that minor difference indicates to him that he has to stop playing. And it doesn't mean that he's always on tilt when he does that, but he does always do that when he's on tilt. So if he always stops when he does that, goes and takes a walk or cashes out, he will not play when he's on tilt hardly at all. And that increased his win rate drastically. Just to figure that out and then to no longer be playing poker when he's on tilt was a huge thing. So finding those indicators, not just of how much you've lost, but any indicator that says you may be in a bad place to play poker, hugely profitable to stop losing money in the bad spots.
I recently had one of my players with a reverse situation, had a reverse tilt. Every time that he got up and started making money, he would start playing out of his ranges. His ranges would widen. Everything was going bizarro on him, and he didn't understand why he was giving back all the money. And he was in this euphoric state that he could win and he could do anything he wanted because he had won. And that's not the way he had got to be a winning player, and he didn't realize it. And once he found out that he has to maintain the same disciplines, well, he wasn't giving the money back, and it was profitable once again.
And that swing, I see people in that terrible whipsaw where they okay, I'm going to be conservative, and I'm going to be careful, and I'm going to be smart and aggressive, and I'm going to do this the right way. And they do that for an hour, and they make some money, or a couple hours, or whatever. They make some money, and they get up, and they go, I'm killing this table. I can play every hand. I'm amazing. And then they lose it back, and they go, oh, crap, I lost it back. I'm going to be smart. I'm going to be solid. I'm going to be tight, aggressive. And they build it back up again, and they have these huge swings every session, ups and downs that make them crazy. And if you can chop off some of the downs by helping people not feel that way, that is a huge thing. And I think a lot of us suffer from that and don't realize how much we suffer from it. I definitely see it in tournaments all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's turn our attention towards coaching. I know that you have foxpoker.com. At the Fox Den, is that different, or is that Fox Den is that in the foxpoker.com?
That's just a tagline for foxpoker.com.
Okay. And so how would somebody get in touch with you, and how would they go about securing your either online or live services for coaching?
They can contact me on Twitter at foxpokerfox.
Okay.
Or there's foxpoker.com. What is it? I'm looking at the link right now. You can just go to foxpoker.com and click on the lessons tab.
Okay.
And my email is right there. You can email me to set up time. But the lessons tab has, I don't know, it's probably longer than it needs to be. It looks like it's a couple thousand words on what I do with lessons and how I can help and which kinds of coaching I can help with. And so there's a whole list of stuff there. If you just go to foxpoker.com/poker-lessons or click on the lessons tab, and you can see all the things there that are available. Learn all about my coaching, and then contact me and see when I'm free. I do a lot of lessons on Skype because I started working with online players back in the day. So still, more than half my students are overseas online players. So I do a lot of lessons via Skype, but I can also do lessons in person in Minnesota or Vegas, or I've flown to work with groups of people quite a few times, and because I don't have a job other than poker, I'm free to do that almost any time too.
What if somebody comes to you and says, well, I know, I've read books, I've played, I've had some mild successes and stuff like that, and I feel, my particular problem is barreling or whatever, and they say, can you tailor a lesson or a session for them on exactly what they're looking for? They feel that that's their weakness?
Absolutely, and I've had some success doing that. But what I find is that people don't usually know what their problem is.
Okay.
If it's a problem, I bet you don't know it that well, or it wouldn't be a problem anymore. It's usually the case. Now, there are, I've had people come to me and say my problem is playing too many hands in early position, and I know it, but then they don't usually follow that up with, can you help me stop doing that? But that's what I know needs to happen, and usually it's helping them understand why it's such a mistake and showing them how clearly it's a mistake. The difference between doing something that you know is lighting money on fire and doing something that's questionable, but you feel like doing it, and maybe it's profitable, and maybe it's not, and maybe it is, and I think it is, and I'm going to play this hand. That's the real difference. And if you can help people understand that, if you play ace 10 offsuit under the gun in a no limit cash game, you're losing money always, every time. You're not good enough to make a profit with that hand because no one is. That makes it easier than if you tell people, well, you could, the ranges have to be flexible, and maybe you could play that there, and maybe you can't. Almost no one in almost no game ever can make that hand profitable. And on the button you can make, they're good players in soft games that could make 9 deuce offsuit profitable on the button, but ace 10 offsuit under the gun is not happening. And we have millions and millions of hands of online poker with working pros to prove that that's true.
That's absolutely true. And then what happens is they see some joke, no, I shouldn't say it's joke, excuse me. They see some individual on TV play it on one of these nighttime poker shows, and they say, well, see, he can do it, I can do it. And then they follow that lead, and then they get themselves in trouble. I have some of my clients that come to me, and they say, oh, I have trouble playing this hand in this position because it's very difficult. And I say, okay, say that one more time. He says, well, I have so difficult time playing this. I said, would you just listen to yourself? If it causes you problems and it's difficult from that position, there's a reason. Just listen to yourself and don't play it. You don't need a coach. What I find is that they have occupational blindness, and I think a coach just listens and asks them questions as they're playing. Let's say they're shadowing, can identify them so easily because the player themselves doesn't see it. They've done it. It's rote to them. It's over and over and over. They don't even see the mistakes they're making. And a sharp eye like yourself or anybody else that's out there that's been coaching for a while can see it and point it out to them. And if they're willing to accept the fact that you, with your expertise and your experience, can spot it, then the other people at the table can spot it as well. So if they listen, they can learn.
Yeah, I think you realize the more you coach, the more you understand that we're therapists as much as we are strategy coaches. I mean, the strategy stuff is all available out there. If somebody wants to go learn about implied odds, they can go read about it. All that stuff's in my book, and it's in other books. And
the name of that book again is what?
No Limits, The Fundamentals of No Limit Hold'em.
Okay,
it is at nolimitsbook.com.
Yeah, we definitely want to get that out there. Yeah, I tell my new clients, and I work with mostly clients in the lower limits that want to build a bankroll. Being that I was the dean over at Poker School Online, and I work with a lot of new people that came in, I find more people struggling in that area, and they're quicker to help and get on their feet and move ahead. But the big word I use is validation. I think that what a coach does is he validates what the client or the player is thinking. So they tell me, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm seeing. And I validate if their thinking is in the right sphere. In other words, if they're looking at it completely wrong, I'll point it out to them. But if they do the right thing and they understand it, then I'm going to validate, yeah, you want to keep that. Even though you lost, don't be results oriented. You got it. You're understanding the game. You're doing the right thing.
That validation is really important with players who lack confidence. I have 2 students who have been working with me for a few years now, and they both play well and they both beat the games consistently. One of them's playing 2-5 for a living. The other one's playing some 2-5 in some tournaments and making a profit. And they're both conservative personalities. They're fairly tight players, and they're making money. They're beating the games. They're beating the games for significant income, but they're not confident. They keep being called nits, and they keep hearing that you can't beat the games this way for very much money. You're not going to make very much money. these maniacal players who have huge swings are telling them how to play. Guys who make less money than they do are telling them how to play, but they lack confidence. And so just playing along with them, watching them play, and after they play a hand, saying that's exactly the right thing to do, and here's why, and you know why, and helping to build up that confidence so that they don't let somebody else tell them how to play poker. They know on their own how to play is a big part of it.
You got the right train of thought there, that's for sure. When you're not playing poker or teaching poker and not hiking, and if you happen to turn on a TV, what is Chris Wallace watching? What interests you?
While I was working last night, I just got a new Microsoft Surface tablet, and I was getting it set up to do Twitch actually. Mm-hmm. And while I was doing that, I binge watched about 6 episodes of Hannibal, the Hannibal Lecter TV show it's on Amazon Prime. I don't know where else it is, but that's where I watched it. I don't have a television. If I want to watch TV, I just pull it up on my computer or my tablet or whatever. I listen to podcasts on my phone some, but I don't have a television. I don't have cable. I just have internet. I do have a Spotify subscription where I get most of my music, and I have that with a Bluetooth player in my home. So when a lot of people would just come home and turn on the TV for background noise, for me that's music instead, but it takes a similar thing. And my girlfriend has a TV, and at her place we've been watching Game of Thrones. So we've watched the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones in the last month.
Cool. Did you ever see the show Dexter?
Yeah, I loved Dexter.
Oh,
great show.
That's a great one.
I in the midst of watching that, I thought, geez, it's great how they use Dexter to kind of describe how we all think and how we're not, the things that happen in our heads, but we don't say them. And I said that too. I was watching it with my wife at the time, now ex-wife, and I said that to her, and she looked at me like I was nuts, and I realized I am a little nuts, but I think we all are, and I think Dexter's a part of that. The show does such a great job of showing how blurry the lines are with, who's a hero and who's a villain, and are they really black and white issues.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite shows. Listen, before we go, I want to remind everybody again, at foxpoker.com, you can get in touch with Chris for lessons, and you can get the book probably from that site as well, if not from Amazon. But I would like to know, and some of the viewers out there that will listen to this up on YouTube at Spath or here on Positive Poker Insiders, what are you looking for in particular when you come in a poker room and you're going to sit down at a cash table? What is it about the table and the players that are seated at the table that you're looking for? What catches your eye?
I like a table where people are having fun, but I think as I've gotten better at reading people and at doing instant appearance reads, which is something I'm good at because I'm so bad at remembering players. It's one of those things that we don't have one skill, you develop another, and my memory is not good, but I've developed a very strong set of reading skills, and so I read people immediately when they sit down at the table, sometimes because it's the 10th time that I've played with that player and still don't remember that much about them, but I know what they're doing because I see how they look and how they sit down and how they buy chips and all the little things that indicate how they're going to play, and so now rather than look at a table and look for a general appearance to the table, I can look at each player and think, what is this guy going to do? And is this guy going to lose money? And how what? We got to do this like an hour later next time. To look at what those players individually are like, and which seat is open, and is the trouble guy on my left or on my right, and who's finding the guy with the shark eyes, the guy who has 3 buy-ins in front of him and is playing lots of hands and playing them well and looks and his face is made of stone and he's not talking to anybody and he's just a killer, is that guy going to be on my left or my right? Because if he's going to be on my left, I'm not so excited about this table, even if everybody's having a good time. Mm-hmm. And if that, if there isn't one of those guys at the table and the table looks kind of sour, I can perk them up sometimes. Hey, fellas, the action's here. Let's do a round of shots. You can liven up a table, but it's very tough to do anything about having that shark on your left. So it's really judging the whole table and the individual players and where the seat is and how the dynamic is, as much as it is something you could see from across the room, like people laughing or drinks in hands or lots of chips on the table. I don't care about lots of chips on the table because they sell more chips at the cage. Mm-hmm. So if I bust a guy, someone else is going to buy more or he's going to buy more and they're going to bring more chips to the table. And it's not like when I pick a table, I'm stuck with that table, and if all the chips are gone, I have to go home. So I don't worry as much about how many chips are on the table because short stacks are really easy to beat in no limit in most cases.
Will you sometimes not sit at the table, take a look around and say, this I got a bad feeling here. This is not a table for me. Or will you just ask for a table change as soon as you sit down? Or how do you play that how should a new player do that if they have a sense?
I will I'll get on the table change list right away, but I will almost always sit down. If I go to the poker room to play, I'm usually going to play. That's not necessarily a good lesson for students though, because I play games that I know I can crush. Mm-hmm. I'm a bankroll nit. I play below my bankroll. I play smaller games than I need to because I don't like the stress of the ups and downs.
Right.
I've played as high as 200, 400 mixed games, but it ruined an entire summer for me doing it. I made a lot of money that summer and never had any fun. And now I play smaller and I'm much happier. And so when I walk into a room, I can, if I'm going to go play 1-3 no limit, say at the Win, I'm always the best player at the table if I'm going to play that game. I very rarely run into another player who's really strong. There are some grinders there. You see the guy with the earbuds and the iPad and the hoodie, and you know that he can play, but he's not going to be great, or he wouldn't usually be playing 1-3. Mm-hmm. So if I go play, I'm going to play, but I will get on the table change list. I will get the seat change button. If the table's not good and it doesn't look like there's a good table to go to, I may be willing to leave, earlier than I would otherwise.
Well, it sounds like a good way to go. And listen, if I walk into that same 1-3 table, just tell me to turn around and get off that table. That you're the best at the table, and I don't need to sit down with the best at the table. I need to sit down with the worst at the table. Well, we really appreciate the time, Chris, today. This has been special. We'll put it up on YouTube. We'll put it out on social media. We'll get it on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll get you a copy within the hour. Okay, sir? And I thank you for your time.
I had a good time. I'll be back again.
Okay, great. And thank you to all your followers out there that get to listen in and take advantage of all the skills that you offer them by offering coaching and books and everything like that. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening today. Our special guest, Chris Fox Wallace. Thanks all. See you next time.